You're listening to Underestimated, the podcast that helps overwhelmed small business owners turn their size into their unfair advantage so they can grow without burning out. Now here's your host, Shawna Suckow.
Have you ever felt overwhelmed as a small business owner? I know you have, where there's just so much on your plate all the time and it's hard to tell what's most important because everything is urgent. Well, I have the exact expert that's going to help you and me to solve this today, and that is Debbie Peterson. She is a clarity expert, she's a keynote speaker, and she's a consultant, and she helps around all things just deciding what's most important so that you can move ahead strategically and effectively. So, Debbie, when business owners tell you that they're overwhelmed, what's really going on?
Oh my goodness. Well, what is going on anytime anybody says they're overwhelmed, whether it's career, leadership, business, it's usually because they're focused on too much. As a society these days, we wear busyness almost as a badge of honor. How you doing? Oh, busy, so busy. But what happens is that when we get to a point where we're overwhelmed, we're focused on too much, and more than likely, we are not weighting things accordingly. And what I mean by that is that we weight everything equally. Like everything is equally important. And usually that is not the case. So it's a focus on too much and a prioritization that might not be accurate.
And so I know small business owners know this better than anyone. Like, what does that look like? What does that lack of clarity translate into? But for anybody who's maybe newer at owning a business, what does that look like, especially in a small business, to have that lack of clarity?
Yeah, so here's the deal. We're a business owner, okay? Like you and I, we're business owners, we're small business owners. And we have our professional life. We have all the things that we're trying to accomplish in our business to get our business to whatever the next level is, whether that's an income standpoint, revenue, profits, clients, new services, projects, doesn't matter. But we're also a person and we have a personal life. And the days of those being separate, I mean, that ship has sailed. I mean, especially, after COVID, post-COVID, having that blending just vanished, and we don't have a clear line of demarcation. So, it sometimes as a small business owner, you're working all the time. Sometimes as a small business owner, maybe you've got a series of decisions or options that you can go in with your business, and because you don't know, you hesitate, right? You put things off. So when it comes to overwhelm or that just chronic, toxic sort of busyness, what happens is that we can start second guessing ourselves. We rely on external factors to validate what it is that we should do instead of listening to our internal, choice points. We defer to others. It could mean that we are hesitating, which means that you could be missing opportunities, especially as quickly as the market changes, that things change for consumers. I mean, hello, tariffs, and everything just spun on a dime. So having that advantage, and I think this is one of the competitive advantages of small businesses, is that they pivot easier. They can make that change. They can choose a direction and go. But when you're overwhelmed, you slow down on that process. And sometimes you're losing that advantage of being able to change quickly.
That analysis paralysis is real.
Yeah.
But small business owners, they're doing so much. It's exhausting.
Yes.
But sometimes it does feel like you're spinning your wheels, like you're just keeping the wolves at bay, but you're not really making progress. So why does doing a little bit of everything kind of feel productive, but it really isn't?
I love that question because I am the queen of lists. So I am one of those people that will make a list, and it makes me feel really good to cross things off my list. And that if something wasn't on my list that I had just accomplished, I will write it on my list. So I have the satisfaction of crossing it off.
Me too.
Yeah. So it was a podcast a number of years ago, and I really wish I could remember which one to attribute it properly. Alas, I cannot. But the definition of, there's busyness and there's productivity, and they are not the same thing.
Mm-mm.
So productivity is knowing what needs to be done and actually getting it done.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I really wish I could remember where I heard it, but I remember I was listening in the car and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, okay, that, that's a definition that I want to hold on to. And it fits in very nicely with what I do in my speaking and consulting, because really clarity comes down to choice. So, it's like it's an if then. If you have, clarity, it's because you are making good choices. But when we're overwhelmed, we put off making the choices. We put off making the decision because we're too overwhelmed to make that choice.
So, okay, perfect. Let's start with that then. When you've got 10 things that seem equally important, how do you start the process of finding clarity?
Yeah. So I am trained in neuro linguistic programming, so NLP. And at a high level, neuro is, the mind, linguistic is language, programming, I don't know why they picked that term, but they did. Programming are our habits. We're creatures of habits as human beings. When we find something that works for us, we keep doing it that way. And that's by design. That's how our mind works. When we find an easy way to get it done, then okay, that's the way we're going to do it. But the problem is whether that's supporting you or sabotaging you, we can fall into those habits. So NLP is the habits, the strategies that we constantly go to get something done. So at a very high level, NLP is about the language of the mind that governs our outcomes. Why is it that some people are in the same situation and they achieve vastly different results? Like somebody is wildly successful and somebody else who's doing something very, in the same environment is just floundering, right? So NLP allows you to see where you're running a pattern. And it's kind of like, hey, I never really realized this before, but this pattern isn't working for me anymore. Maybe it's something that worked for you in the past, but it's not working for you anymore. So you've got to be able to interrupt that pattern. And you've got to be able to create a new pattern. So when it comes to small businesses and they've got 10 things to do, they've weighted them all equally, it comes down to that choice. And the very first thing is self-awareness, is that awareness of where am I? And, like pulling it back a step. Okay, looking at this, are they really all equally important? What is your overall goal or vision for your business? So again, in NLP, because I'm trained in this, you may have heard we have end goals and we have aim goals. So aim goals, AIM, are those goals that are lofty, they're aspirational. They sound a little more vague. It's about, okay, I want to move to a new threshold of revenue in my business, or I want to build my keynote speaking business or something. So it's aspirational. Like this is the direction you're going with your business. That's really important to know. Why are you in business? Why is it important to you? Why is it important to your customers, your clients? Understanding that will help you make better decisions because it is data that informs the choices and the decisions that you'll make. So that awareness first has to come. Why am I in business? What is my overarching goal for this year? Is it to attract new clients? Is it to launch a new revenue stream? Is it, increasing revenue? Like what is the most important goal for your business this year? Once you have that, it becomes so much easier to make good decisions. So when you look at, say, for instance, for giggles, we're just going to say it's as a small business owner, you're looking to increase, maybe it is profit or revenue, right? So you look at those 10 items and you say, okay, which of these are going to have the biggest impact on me doing that? And you can only compare one choice against another choice. So when my son was little, my son Mitch, do you remember when like the Toys R Us catalog used to come out at Christmas time?
Yeah.
So Mitch would get out his little red Sharpie and he would go through the catalog, right? And he would circle just about everything that there was. And, Mom, I want this, I want this, I want this. Anybody who's a parent can identify with that.
Hmm.
But at some point, I probably had my coffee that day. I got smart and I said, okay, started on page 1 where the first circle was, went to page 2 where the second circle was. Which one do you want most? So we were only choosing between 2. So he picked the one he wanted most. It doesn't mean it goes away. It doesn't mean it falls off your list, but which one are you going to prioritize the highest according to what your goal is for your business? And you can only pick between 2. Once you have a winner there, with Mitch, it was the one on page 2. Okay, we took the one on page 2. We went to page 3 where the third circle was. Okay, do you want the one that's on page 2 or the one on page 3? The most. So literally, you do a comparison between 2 items until you've run through all the items, and then you know which one is the most important.
I
So
like that.
it is not rocket science, but it's not always simple either. But so first, you've got to know what your overall business goal is for this year. Second, you have to have that awareness. If you've got 10 things, then what one is going to meet that goal the best? Right? And that's where you start, because that's what's going to move the needle to your next level in the business the most effectively. It may be a longer term project, but it's the one that's going to get you there the quickest.
I love that. So, as a small business owner, you and I are the
Mhm.
audience that's listening, they all are working in a small business or they're the owners. And when you're constantly bombarded, like how do you personally step back? What are your habits that you do? How often do you do this? Like for me, as an example, I used to do quarterly solo retreats, and I'm getting back to doing that over the course of the next year, where once a quarter I go someplace without Wi-Fi, which is so weird, and like a little cabin somewhere, and I unplug and I bring big whiteboards. I go old school, and I write down all the things, and I just get my head clear so that I can prioritize because when I'm in the middle of everything, I just can't. So what is your
Literally.
process?
Yes, yes. And the answer there is whatever works for you. So for you, it's the quarterly retreats. If that's working for you, if it's worked in the past and employing it again now, then great. For somebody else, it might be something different. But there was a key thing that you said there is that you disconnect and you got quiet. And that is the only way that clarity can come through, because a lot of times it's competing with all of the noise and the noise is just drowning it out. So, for instance, sometimes I'll go to the beach and I won't take any of my electronic devices. And literally, I will just people watch, I'll walk, I'll nap. Like, you give yourself the space to let whatever needs to come through. Because the thing is that so for the small business owner that's listening to this, you know your business. It's not about anybody else telling you what to do. You know your business. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this business, right? You wouldn't care about growing it to another level. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't care. So you know your business. And I think one of the disservices that we do to ourselves is that we discount our own answers and we don't give ourselves the space or grace to find them. So whatever that looks like for you, that you can take the noise out um, and let that silence percolate with the clarity that wants to come through. But when you think about it, the badge of busyness, right? All the things we have to get done, that we have weighted equally, that we are just trying to cross off the list. And I'm guilty of this sometimes too.
Yep.
But we're not clear on what we really need to be focusing on. And so for me, I'll go to the beach sometimes. I mean, one of the best um, developments in my keynote literally came when I was face down on a massage table. Like, it just dropped in. And it's the formula that I use. It's the framework that I take people through to help them find their clarity. And I'll share that in a moment. But literally it dropped through when I was on a massage table. But you're tuning out, but we don't give ourselves that time. We're chasing so many things that it works the opposite way. And then when we do give ourselves time, we feel guilty. oh, I should be doing something, then your mind is going through that trap. So, that space is really, really important.
And it has to remain sacred. And I regret that when I got so busy over the past year that I deprioritized those solo retreats. That's exactly when I needed them the most. But let's talk about it. Maybe you don't have the time to go out of town for a day. Maybe you don't even have the time for an afternoon to yourself because you're in the thick of maybe your busiest season or a major upheaval in the market. Are there such things as like bite-sized moments of clarity, like maybe when you're walking your dog or like during your commute? And what do you do?
Yeah, it can happen. You can brushing your teeth. You know, it's usually, it's interesting. Pay attention to uh before you go to bed at night and when you're falling asleep or when you're waking up, because usually here's how it happens. We have a conscious thinking mind, we have an unconscious mind as well. The conscious mind generates about 5% of our thoughts during the day. The unconscious mind is the remaining 95% of our thoughts. So when it comes to, okay, let the rubber hit the road and get something done, that happens in the unconscious. That's where our answers come from. That's where our memories come from. That's where when I was on the massage table and it dropped in, it came from the unconscious. It wasn't anything I was consciously thinking about. But what we try to do is use the conscious mind to solve our problems. Like we Rubik's Cube things, we're just thinking of every single way that we can do something to solve this problem, but we're thinking about it consciously, but that's not where our power lies. Our power lies in the unconscious, which means that the conscious mind has to get out of the way. That chatter that we hear in the head, that, all the things that I need to do, the problem solving in this, the 6 inches between your own two ears, that is what gets in the way. That overthinking, that ruminating, I call it Rubik's cubing. So when I was face down on the massage table, my conscious mind was out of the way. I was, it got to the point where I was relaxed enough that I was letting go. When you go to bed at night and you're falling asleep, it's the same thing. When you're brushing your teeth or driving your car or taking a shower, that's when things can come through because your conscious mind is otherwise occupied,
Yeah. And we're not on our devices,
Yeah.
and I tend to want to fill every waking moment doing something so that I stay ahead of things. I feel productive, but it's just the opposite to
Well,
all
so
of
let's
that.
think about it. We, throughout the year, we have various holidays and maybe it's, vacations where we have extra things going on in addition to what normally happens in our lives. And those are when things ramp up or, maybe you're in an acquisition phase or something like that. Maybe you are starting a new vertical for your business or starting a new project or something like that. And those are the times where like busyness goes into overdrive because
Mhm.
you've got that push, right? So I have a tool that I want to share, and it's almost like gamifying it. Because again, just because we're going through something extra at work, like a new project or a new vertical for the business or another initiative, whatever the case, that doesn't mean your personal life stops, you know?
Uh-huh.
But there are going to be times where work is going to have to take a little bit of a front seat because you do need that extra push. I equate it to this. I love to cook. Okay. In my kitchen, I have a big 6-burner Wolf dual fuel range. It's a beast and I love it. I love it. So for the people who don't cook, they're scratching their heads. For those of you that do, you get it. But cooking is how I show my love. So Thanksgiving, I am cooking dinner for my, entire family. I got like 20 people coming to the house. And you better believe I have all 6 burners going. But depending on where I'm at in the meal prep, there are only certain things that'll come to the front because those are the things that I really need to pay attention to. There have to be things you have to make decisions. Okay, now this goes on a back burner. Doesn't get turned
Literally.
off. It doesn't
Mhm.
get cold. Put it on a low flame. You kind of keep an eye on it, but your attention needs to be up front. Our life is the same way. And we have to make choices. And sometimes things move around, but you have to be aware of what you're doing and why. So there will be times where you got to make an extra push at work. Okay. And it's just okay. So what can you put in place to help take some of the slack? So I have something I call do it, delete it, or delegate it. And when it comes to the list that you have to do, you either have to do it like it absolutely positively has to be you. It cannot be anybody else. You delete it, which may mean that it goes right off the list or it gets pushed far enough out into the future. It's not an issue right now. Or you delegate it. And I challenge you to be creative in delegating. Can your kids fold the laundry? Sure. Will you like it? Probably not. But is it done? All right, fine. You know, can you do an Instacart order for groceries? Maybe, you know, and maybe somebody's having a bad day and you get bruised fruit, but hey, at least you got your groceries, you know. Is there someone who has some experience in something you're willing to move off your plate that they can help out with it, that you can give them enough that they can run with it and not cause peril or damage to the business, but it's kind of like training wheels for them. So getting creative about how you can move things off of your list temporarily. Either you have to do it, you can delegate it to someone else or something else, or it gets deleted. So here's the key though. Whatever your list is, you have to divide it in thirds. Only a third can go on the list that you do. A third has to go on the list you delegate. And a third has to go on the list that you kick the can down the road a little bit.
Okay, doesn't mean you're deleting it forever.
Right?
You're just deleting it from being right in front of you and
Yes.
feeling as important as everything else.
And it is for this time. It is for this specific purpose, but it forces you to choose. So again, clarity is choice. It forces you to choose what you're going to put on the front burner. Like what is most important during this specific time. And it doesn't run that way forever. And then, so consider conversely, you have someone, I say, death, divorce, and disease, you know, the 3Ds. Those are the things from a personal level that can really knock us off kilter. So, you know, it might be a project at work. It might be a new vertical at work, but it also might be something on the personal. And so then, you know, you've got to put a little more energy into the personal than the work. I mean, there's always a trade-off, and what that requires is choice. There will be sacrifices. You know, we like to think we could do it all. I know I can't as much as I like to think that I can. And that's when we get ourselves in pretty bad shape. You know, we get overwhelmed and we just start feeling it physically, because overwhelm starts by us being distracted, dropping the ball, but it also starts to build up stress.
Oh, yeah.
And if we don't pay attention to that stress, you know, long term, it's going to affect you physically. It's going to start affecting how you show up at work. It's going to start affecting the relationships that are important to you. It's going to start affecting your sense of self. So it's not anything that you can just stick your head in the sand. You know, you've got to make some choices. And then you get feedback. Okay, was that the right choice? Maybe not, but you've got new information. What can you do different?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your framework.
Yeah.
So is that the 3Ds or is that something different from the 3Ds you just shared?
It's something different from the 3D. So I call it a clarity compass. So I want you to imagine a compass, maybe in the palm of your hand, or, you know, if you've got an app on your phone and, you know, it gives you direction, right? Well, that's what the compass does. And that's what the clarity compass does. It helps you get direction for whatever you have going on. And this is a way that I help audiences and clients to get out of that state of overwhelm and indecision and hesitation, and I get them into motion. So when you start with the compass in the north position, okay, is why. So why? I asked you some questions. Why? From a business owner perspective, why are you in business? You know, why is this important to the clients that you serve? So if you're thinking about making or achieving a next level in your business, that might be, okay, why is your business important? Why do you do what you do? You know, why is it important to your clients? So really tapping into the meaning and the passion behind it. And what that helps you do is to really understand what's most important. So for instance, in one of the realtors organizations that I did, I asked them this question, and there was a gentleman in the audience, and he said that his why is about providing security for his clients, for his customers. It wasn't about a house. So for him, because of his story, and it was about having that roof over your head, the place where you lived, where you created the home. It wasn't about the walls and the doors. It was about that security of knowing you had that need met, right? So it was about providing security for his clients. And that, when he got clear on that, he knew what direction he wanted to take his business in. He knew what kind of clients he should pursue. He knew when he wanted to make a move in his business and when he shouldn't. I mean, it just helped to inform his decisions because, that is like your North Star. That's alignment. And a lot of times what happens and especially the business that you and I are in, it's like there's a bright, shiny object. Ooh, squirrel. Should I be doing that? Oh, they're doing that. I should be doing that.
Yep.
And we end up moving away from what is most important to us and where we can have the biggest impact. So starting with that north position, the why is really important. So that's for an overall business. But if you're looking at filling a position even in your business, well, why is that position important? How does that impact the organization? Why is this position important to our clients or to our customers or to our projects? Or why is filling this position moving us towards what it is that we want to achieve overall in the business? So no matter what it is you're doing, whether it's for the business, it's for a position, it's for starting a new project, it's creating a new vertical, get clear on the why you're doing it, and make sure that it aligns with the core reason that you're in business, So if we move,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, where can people learn more about the Clarity Compass and about you as a speaker and a consultant and a clarity expert?
Oh, yeah. So you can head over to my website. There's lots of information there at www.debbiepetersonspeaks.com. Also, I'm very active on LinkedIn, YouTube, and there's a lot of information there as well. I put content up every week that supports the compass and professionals in leadership or solopreneurs, small business owners. It all applies. Careerists, to help them make good choices to get their clarity.
And speaking of clarity, one last thing that listeners can do immediately after this episode, one small step they can take to get more clarity.
One small step that they can get to more clarity is dive into the why. Why do you do what you do? Why is it important to you? Just to make, because just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
So make sure that you've got
different.
make sure you've got that strong foundation for why you're doing what you do and build into your framework of the decisions that you make from there.
Yeah. Because your why can change. My why 10 years ago is different from my why today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to reflect on that.
I mean, you change every day. You're a different version of yourself. You're growing. So your why would change.
Yeah.
It might not, but yeah, it can.
Yeah. So Debbie, this is your chance to be selfish as a small business owner. What do you want more of in your business in the next year? Ask for whatever you want.
Yeah, it is, I love what I get to do. And I was talking to my mastermind about it yesterday. And it's just, this brings me joy when I can step into an organization and either serve them through a program, whether that is some sort of meeting and they need a keynote speaker, or they are looking for a strategy session or leadership development. Bringing clarity into businesses is something that just makes my little toes tap. So doing more of that would be my selfish ask. So DebbiePetersonSpeaks.com.
And the final question, very, very important. Dogs or cats?
Dogs. Beagles. Go Beagles.
Yay, beagles. Thank you, Debbie, so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and helping us get clarity as busy small business owners. You have been listening to Underestimated, and I am Shawna Suckow, the Buyer Insider.
Thanks for listening to Underestimated, hosted by Shawna Suckow. To connect with Shawna, go to thebuyerinsider.com.